Dive and Dress, a two-watch collection we're looking at from Texas-based microbrand DuFrane Watches, coming up in today's episode. But first,
hey, did you know it's a great day to wear a watch?
What's up, Schwartz Force? Welcome back to the channel. I missed you guys and gals, and thanks for stopping by. In case if you are new here, my name's Dave, and may the Schwartz be with you. So today we're taking a look at two watches from DuFrane Watch Company based out of Austin, Texas. I had the honor of getting to meet the owner, Steven, at a recent Red Bar event here in town, and he asked if I'd like to take one to review for a bit, and I said yes, absolutely. I also ran into Andy, a fellow watch enthusiast and supporter of this channel, who was like, hey, I have the DuFrane Waterloo dress watch. Did you want to check that out too? And I said, absolutely. So here we have a dress and dive watch combo, which could really serve as a two-watch do-it-all pairing. I'm gonna start with the dive watch and then move on to the dress piece. So if you want to skip over to the dress watch, you can go to this timestamp right here. But before you click anything, please hit that thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm. That really helps out my channel, guys. Thank you for that. So Steven, the owner, named this brand after his mother's maiden name, DuFrane, as a way to honor the influence she had in his love of watches as a young boy. Being from and based in Austin, Texas, Steven names each of his watch models that he has designed after various Austin landmarks or historical figures. I personally love the charm of taking things important and cherished by Steven and how that comes through with his brand, by honoring his mother in the brand's name and using hometown references in the watch model names. Really cool. Okay, the diver, known as the Deep Eddy. So in this case, the Deep Eddy is a man-made spring water-fed swimming pool in Austin, Texas. It was initially just an old swimming hole, but the land was purchased in 1915, and then the concrete pool was established around 1936, making it the oldest swimming pool in Texas. How cool is that? As described by Steven, legend has it that there is a rather large boulder near the swimming area and the water flowed by it, creating a small eddy, hence the pool name and inspiration for this watch. You can see an image of the boulder and water flowing around it etched into the case back. So let's talk specs and measurements. The Deep Eddy is a solid 316L stainless steel case dive watch that comes with a rubber strap with the option of adding a full 316L stainless steel bracelet. There's sapphire glass that is double domed and has 2 layers of AR coating applied. 120 click unidirectional bezel with aluminum insert that does have C3 Swiss Super Luminova applied, which we'll get to shortly. 200 meters of water resistance with a screw down crown and screw down case back. And there is also C3 Swiss Super Luminova applied to the indices and hands. And the watch is powered by a Swiss Ronda R150 automatic movement, which is a 3-hand movement with date complication, beating at 4 Hertz or 28,800 vibrations per hour, has a 38-hour power reserve, and it has been regulated with an accuracy of around 2 to 4 seconds per day. And this is reflected in the paperwork you receive in the boxing, along with the warranty card and manual. There is a document that shows when the movement was last tested running at +1 seconds per day, but keep in mind that may have been fully wound and may not have been the case when I put this on the time graph, so just a heads up there. The watch measures in with a case diameter of 42 millimeters, has a lug-to-lug height of just under 48 millimeters. However, with the bracelet, the male end links protruding, that lug-to-lug height actually comes out to 53.5 millimeters. Case thickness with the dome sapphire is at 14.5 millimeters, and the lug width is 22 millimeters, so there are plenty of strap swap options out there, guys. And after sizing this bracelet, this is how the watch wears on my 7-inch wrist. Now the rubber strap is nice and pliable with quick release spring bars and plenty of sizing holes to accommodate plenty of wrist sizes out there. The tang buckle and satin finish is done well with the small DuFrane logo etched into it. It's a nice strap, but it can be a bit of a dust magnet, as a lot of these silicone and rubber straps tend to be. And here's how the watch wears on my wrist with the rubber strap installed. The bracelet is comfortable, tapering to 20 millimeters, and is fully milled with a fold-over security style clasp. It has solid male end links, solid links in a 3-link oyster style, and there is DuFrane branding on the clasp with 3 micro adjustments and screw down pins. The fronts of the links are all satin finish with high polish on the sides, and I like that there are vents between the links which allow for breathability and added comfort. It's also not going to pull any hair on your arms. Now the satin finish and high polish ties in with the case design, which has a unique shape to it. When looking at the watch from the front, we see lugs that have a nice high polished beveled edge with angular and straight lug tips. From the side, we see that the lugs curve downward aggressively with drilled lug holes making for easy strap swaps, and the lugs look like they've been cut out of one solid block of steel, which I think looks pretty cool as it transitions around the sides of the case. The finishing is done really nicely and all of the edges are smooth to the touch. The deep coin edge bezel rests on top of the case and has deep teeth that also match with the style used on the signed screw down crown, as you can see here. Bezel action feels really nice, it's easy to grip and has zero backplate in it. It's really done well. The thin bezel insert design I think is one of those things that may be polarizing, but it's definitely different and has a triangle engraved at 12 o'clock along with the Arabic numerals at each hour and minute indices up to the first 15 minutes. Moving to the dial, we see the Rehat is aggressively sloped with line markers around the chapter ring, and each of the hour markers have had a section of the Rehat cut away, giving depth and this really cool shadow effect when viewing at different angles. There's a nice use of geometrical shapes that we often see with divers, the triangle at 12, rectangles at 3, 6, and 9, and circles at all the other hours. The hour markers are raised and applied to the dial, which they have this black edge, which gives great contrast for easy legibility. DuFrane branding is printed at 12 o'clock, and the DuFrane logo is applied in high gloss black paint above that, and the only other text used on the dial is the model name, indication of automatic movement, and water resistance. I think as large as the dial space is, this text could have been a bit larger, but that's just my personal opinion. The pencil-shaped minute and hour hands are diamond-cut polished steel that shift from silver to black in various lighting, and the second hand is a needle shape with lollipop counterbalance, all filled with lume. Here is that lume shot I promised you. Now this is where so many other divers tend to fall short, but not the Deep Eddy. This lume is fantastic and lasts for a long period of time before fading out. I love the use of lume in both the bezel and the dial as well. Now the date wheel is at the traditional 3 o'clock position, but I think having a slightly larger date window would have worked a bit better on this watch. In my opinion, date boxes are always the toughest part of watch layouts. Lastly, I wanted to go over the crown. Winding the crown feels smooth, but there is just a tad bit of resistance that I think will loosen up over time, and screwing and unscrewing the crown is the typical feeling of having to reverse it into the threads before tightening it up. And pulling the crown out to position 2, we see that the second hand does hack, and moving the hands are smooth, with date changing around 11:53 p.m., clicking over just after 12:05 a.m. I love these quick date transitions. And in position 1, date change is smooth and falls into the next date without any issues. So what are my final thoughts on the Deep Eddy? Well, I think the Snow White dial works really well for being a versatile diver. It's rugged enough to use as a tool watch, but can be dressed up or down with NATOs, rubbers, even leather straps for your daily and weekend pairings. They do have the Sapphire Blue, the Dune, and Lagoon dial options as well if that suits your taste better. However, check their website first to see what may or may not currently be available. The watch is made extremely well. It has top tier specs and materials with the Swiss movement and phenomenal lume, so it ticks all the boxes you'd want in a diver. And for around $515, this places it in that mid-tier range that gives you what you'd expect to see for that cost. Now, the smaller bezel design will make this watch appear larger on the wrist, so that's something to keep in mind. The watch has some unique design elements to it that give it a really unique charm, while staying true to form with the more traditional handset and dial layout. And being from Texas as well, you know I'm gonna give it 2 Texas-sized thumbs up, so check out the links in the description if you wanna pick one up and show some support for DuFrane watches. Those are not sponsored or affiliate links, by the way, just me showing some love. All right, now moving on to the Waterloo dress piece. Again, I want to say thank you to Andy for lending this in. Be sure to go give him a follow on Instagram to check out more of his collection. The name Waterloo is in reference to a small community that was near the Colorado River and Shoal Creek before Austin was founded. I believe the name was derived from the battle where Napoleon was defeated by the English, but I could be wrong about that, so take it with a grain of salt. Waterloo is referenced quite a bit still in Austin to this day, such as the popular record shop, Waterloo Records. Also, there's Waterloo Park, Waterloo Apartments, restaurants, and more. Now, there are 2 versions of the Waterloo dress watch, automatic and quartz, and they can come in either a stainless steel case or rose gold PVD case. The version I have in today is the automatic in steel, so let's get into it. The case is solid 316L stainless steel with a flat sapphire crystal that has 6 layers of AR coating applied. Yes, 6. The watch comes on either a black or brown full grain padded leather strap with contrast stitching. The case back is held in with screws, and while the crown is not a screw down crown, this watch has 100 meters of water resistance. Now it is a 3-hand watch with date complication and features heat blued steel hands, C3 Swiss Superluminova on the tips of the hands, a brushed steel chapter ring, and soft linen textured main dial plate. The watch is powered by the Swiss Sellita SW200 movement, which beats at 28,800 vibrations per hour and has a 40-hour power reserve. This one has also been regulated and has an accuracy around 3 to 6 seconds per day from what I tested. Now the Waterloo dress watch measures in with the case diameter of 39 millimeters, lug-to-lug height of 47 millimeters, and case thickness of just over 10 millimeters. The watch has a 20 millimeter lug width, which allows for plenty of strap swaps as well. This is how the watch wears on my 7-inch wrist. Now the curved ends of the leather strap allow for a more flush fitment with the case, and I think this is a nice touch for the strap, which does have quick release spring bars and has a nicely decorated tang buckle in high polish with the DuFrane logo engraved into it. The leather strap is thick, being a padded strap, but tapers in thinness towards the ends. It has been broken in by Andy and shows some creasing from daily use, which is to be expected. There are 2 sets of lug holes on this watch, which shows the thought put into this design. These accommodate the supplied curved leather strap or the standard lug holes, which will allow for a straight-ended strap to be installed. The drilled lug holes make for a nice convenience as well. The watch design plays well with depth and various viewing angles. Let me tell you what I mean. When looking at the watch from straight on, we don't really notice the step bezel as much. We do see the curved lug design that has a nice silhouette to it in the absence of crown guards, which gives the watch a clean look. As we view the watch from the side, we see more of that step bezel done in high polish as it rests onto the flat case done in satin finish. While the sides of the case are also satin finish, there's this nice beveled edge of high polish that flares out along the tapered edge of the lugs, which curves downward very slightly, and it does have sharp corners. Now the flat sapphire with AR coating gives us a crystal clear look of the dial at any angle with zero distortion. We can see that the brushed vertical ray hot meets with the brushed chapter ring, giving a muted and soft reflection of light. Because the minute, dot markers, and Arabic hour markers are cut throughout the chapter ring, we see the linen dial peak from under, giving a sandwich dial effect. The linen texture is subtle, but beautiful and elegant. I like the blending of cools and warms here. There's cool steel, both in metal and gray in color, with the warmness of linen and off-white. They work really well. There is DuFrane branding and logo printed at 12 o'clock in blue, and we see the model name Waterloo and automatic indication printed just above the date at 6 o'clock. Again, I think the text could have been just a tad larger in this space. The blue printing matches the blued handset shown here with thin leaf shapes for the hour and minute hand and thin needle second hand, each with C3 Swiss Superluminova applied to the tips. The contrast allows for easy readability of the hands, however the hour markers and the minute markers can be a bit hard to make out in indirect lighting. I personally like the date window at 6 o'clock on this watch, but I think having a date box would have been a good thing here, maybe in a color to match the linen dial so it wouldn't have stood out too much. Now the date wheel is a bright white and the date wheel text is crisp and clean and easy to read. The crown has a nice tight coin edge to it and is branded with the DuFrane logo. Winding the crown feels nice as to be expected with the SW200. And pulling the crown out to position 2, we see the movement does hack and rotating the hands is done smoothly. Date change starts slightly at 11:30 p.m. and clicks over just before midnight. I really like the Texas Star image on the case back, and we see high polish on the backs of the lugs, and engraved on the case back are the specs and details of the watch. So final thoughts on the Waterloo after having it on the wrist are that it is an absolute strap monster. It plays with various materials and colors. It can be dressed up or dressed down, but definitely leads toward a more elegant and dressier piece. The specs give great peace of mind, and the measurements are right in that sweet spot for most wrist sizes out there. Since the lugs do not curve though, if you have a thinner wrist bone shape, it may have a slight bit of overhang or floating on the wrist. I love the step bezel with the AR coating applied. All these muted features on the dial really shine through. Finishing is immaculate, all the edges are smooth, and I could not find any issues with this watch. Priced at $499 for the automatic, again, this is putting us in that mid-tier for microbrands with specs and features to be expected and appreciated, but with a design that is unique and I think will stand the test of time. If you love the look but want a more budget-friendly version, the quartz version priced at $299 would be the way to go. It uses a Swiss Ronda 715 movement, so you get a slightly thinner case at 8.8 millimeters, with all the other specs being the same except for the blued steel hands. Now these two watches right here could serve as a do-it-all watch collection, but these aren't the only models that DuFrane Watches offers, so if these didn't speak out to you, check out their website and see more like their Bergstrom Air model, Barton Springs, and GMT watch models. I really want to hear your thoughts on these two, so drop me a comment and let me know what you like the most about the Deep Eddy or the Waterloo, or what you would change if you could. And of course, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you like this video and want to see more. Till next time, as always, may the Schwartz be with you. Take care.